politicians' republic. Most Republicans in Australia have been fake Republicans. That is to say, they're not at all interested in improving the form of government. In the 19th century, they were white supremacists. They wanted to pull out of the British Empire and be like the southern states of the United States. In the 20th century, the communists wanted a people's republic. They wanted a communist republic. But in one of the debates during the campaign, which was held at Corowa, I was pitted against Turnbull, and I was with Ted Mack, who was probably the most honest politician Australia's ever had. He was the independent member for North Sydney. And I said to Ted, look, I have a problem with the Republicans, with the official Republicans. He was a real Republican. He was opposed to the Turnbull-Keating model. I said, I have a problem with this model because it's going to effectively neutralise the president's reserve powers, because the president can be sacked without notice, without grounds, and without any right of appeal at any time by the Prime Minister. So he's going to become a poodle. And I said, I can't seem to get this through to Turnbull and the Republicans. And Ted looked at me with his usual doer look and he said, don't bother. It's precisely what they want. This is exactly what they want. They want to do away with those checks and balances on power.
Well, my problem, David, with the Turnbull-Keating model, or the Keating-Turnbull model, as whatever we wish to term it, is that it gave the President a stronger mandate than the Governor-General has, but less security than the Governor-General has. And when you change in subtle but significant ways the role and security of tenure of key people within it, the system of government is inevitably destabilised. And as I said earlier, whatever might currently be wrong with our system of government, there's nothing that becoming a republic is going to improve.
And it would have also given the President the apparent and reserved powers. The apparent power, for example, the power to assent or not to assent to legislation. Now, if you gave that to an elected President without changing the Constitution, you would create in Australia, I remember writing this, you would create in Australia a French fifth-style republic.
Correct. The President would effectively have a veto power over legislation, and that would be a dramatic and radical departure from constitutional practice in this country.
And he could dismiss the Prime Minister, and he could call a new election without advice.
Exactly right. Simply transferring the existing powers of the Governor-General to a novel new entity, novel in an Australian context, would have all sorts of ramifications, far-reaching ramifications for the way we govern. And I suspect it would set up great potential for conflict, constitutional conflict between the Prime Minister and the President. I think we would end up with something like the French system, and I don't believe that would in any way be an improvement.
I think you might as well go to the American system if you're going to do that.
Well, I think the American system is less bad than the French system, but I think our system is better than both.
The American system was, instead of a Supreme Court, a judicial committee of the House of Lords.
Well, even Britain has departed from the judicial committee of the House of Lords. I suspect they're now regretting that.
I think it's been a disaster. We named this, incidentally, the Keating-Turnbull model. ACM named it, some genius. I didn't do it, but somebody called it the Politicians' Republic. And I remember Kerry Jones and I were marched down to Canberra, and we had to speak to a group of monarchist backbenchers who were outraged at the misuse of the word politician.
And look, my point was that as a politician myself, I have nothing particularly against politicians, but I thought we had quite enough authority as it was, and I didn't want us to have even more, because inevitably the President, should we have one, would be a lot more political than the Governor-General is and has been.
This is so definite. It is so obvious.